Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a cool preview for you of a really awesome prototype that I'm so excited about and really just absolutely honored, honestly, to be sharing with you guys. And hopefully this will be premiering this particular model for YouTube. So I'll try to keep this short because this is a pre-production prototype of a watch that's actually already been viewed on the channel. I want to say even more than once. This is, of course, the Traska Freediver, but this is the latest iteration. This is the Freediver 2. Now, a little bit about Traska. They're actually headquartered out of Jacksonville Beach in Florida. They're founded by a guy named John Mack. And basically, he had the intention of making watches that you could wear without, pretty much ones that you could wear without ever worrying about. A true tool watch fit for any activity. Now, to make a long story short, John also had a lot of passions in studying business as well as Chinese culture. He kind of put those two things together with his watch passion and had a little bit of curiosity when he did hear, of course, like us all do in kind of the watch enthusiast realm, that so many parts from all these mainstream Swiss brand watches were actually produced outside of Switzerland, right? Because it's only a certain percentage of the value, right? 60% of the value, which most of that is going to end up being chalked up to the movement. But pretty much everything else you find typically is going to be produced somewhere in China. And of course, there are exceptions to this rule, and there are some watches that are much higher percentage of actual Swiss-made parts. But just to bear the Swiss-made moniker, you don't really need that much, which actually has helped essentially other production, from other countries really step their game up because they're being outsourced to produce for these high-end luxury watches. So along his travels, he essentially was able to confirm with his own eyes, oh wow, that clasp, this bracelet, these are going on these, very expensive Swiss-made pieces. Hey, what can I do with my passion now? And can I build something that's the watch for me, basically, and share it with the community? So, of course, this type of watch is a dive watch. Some key characteristics in design language. When you're looking for a dive watch, it's going to be something that is water resistant. Of course, normally through some type of screw down crown, you're going to want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel, and if it's on a bracelet, a diver's extension is always nice. Now, this is the blue dial model of the Freediver 2. This is basically a newly revised version of the original Freediver, but it is now 200 meters of water resistance. It is slightly beefed up as well when it comes to kind of the dial aesthetic and the hands, which also, of course, tie in to those beefed up specs. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, so as you can see, at least from what I can tell thus far, pretty similar specs to the original model, which I actually have right here. So you're still going to get that hardened coating and whatnot, but you'll notice that the aesthetic is here is a little bit softer, I'd say a little bit more refined feeling, and I don't mean that like in a good or bad way. It just definitely is a little bit finer point here. It's just a little bit more bold and a little bit bulkier, a little bit more bulked up anyway. You can see the indices have a little bit more wideness to them, which is going to mean more legibility. And then obviously the hands as well have been bulked up quite a bit to get more lume on there, as well as just be a little bit bolder and really fit more into that kind of pure dive watch versus before the Freediver. Although definitely with 100 meters water resistance and screw down crown, it was completely reliable. Here you're just getting more into just the more overbuilt specs that you're used to seeing from kind of entry-level divers. So very similar. I mean, really, it's probably just the case back so far that I can tell. Again, this is just a very, very early preview. I don't even have that much information on this piece yet. John was kind enough to send it over so that I could compare it to my beloved first gen Freediver right here. And you can see one of the nice things that they did carry over was the dial finishes. You can see this isn't a sunburst dial. It's kind of this nice satiny metallic color, which just turns out and it just reads absolutely gorgeous. Same thing that they did for this blue, which is absolutely outstanding. As you can see, let me get it up close here. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Oh, looks like a little bit of my drool shot out onto it from how good this looks. Anyways, but as you guys can see, the blue, the way how dynamic it is, the way the color shift on it is very different in comparison to your typical sunray style pattern, which I think really adds to the aesthetic. You can see how dark it just shot right there, and then how much lighter it can get, and then really the gradient transitions are quite different, but really nice still. Look at that. Look how much this thing can light up, and then just deep, deep, deep navy, almost like a midnight color for there. So really, really beautiful. Again, so just a quick comparison here. Very, very similar in terms of the dimensions and whatnot. Still got your drilled lugs, still have the beautifully done clasp. All of this, of course, with that very nice coating, which actually makes everything quite a bit harder and super scratch resistant. You guys might remember from a couple of my other videos, this coating is absolutely amazing, and it does only add a little bit of a tint of a different tone to the steel that makes it seem a little bit darker, just a touch, very reminiscent to the Seiko DiaShield coating color, but I'd say it's proven itself to be quite stronger than any DiaShield coated watches I've ever seen. So, you know, as far as the pricing goes, this originally, the Gen 1 went for $375 with a stainless steel insert. I don't know what the new pricing is going to be. Definitely check back. I plan to definitely get one of these in after they're produced, full production, and get some of those pricing, some of the pricing information for you guys. Has 120 click bezel. Beautifully smooth, nice and notchy at the same time, not a lot of play. Very nicely done there. So functionally, this has always been an outstanding watch. You have a screw down crown. I believe it's now powered by the NH38 movement. So it's not going to have a ghost position. Oddly enough, I want to say that this one didn't actually have a ghost crown position, even though it's listed as an NH35, which I don't know if they were modifying them or whatnot. But basically now there are out of the box Seiko NH movements that are no date, so you're gonna avoid that ghost position. I don't actually mind the ghost crown position as much as people make it out to be. I feel like it ends up kind of being this thing. People are just looking for any excuse not to buy a watch sometimes, and I think a ghost crown position is just one of the weirdest ones I've ever heard. But this won't have a ghost crown position, and this doesn't. So that real deep metallic blue dial, you have the beautiful applied indices, you have BGW9 Lume. This thing is, of course, waters to 200 meters. You have the drilled lugs, you have these beautiful chamfers on the case. My goodness, look at that. Also carried over, you have the beautiful high polished kind of inner twist there, kind of reminiscent of Omega on the inner lug. Very, very nicely done. You have these great lugs that are actually the female end links there, which are great. So it's going to hang much smaller when it comes to on the wrist versus when you have the male end sticks out and actually adds a little bit of elongation to the case. 20 millimeter lugs. Everything tapers down to 18, and then you do have that beautiful 20 millimeter clasp, nicely etched, very, very clean and sharp. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get this. Okay guys, as you can see, the 40 millimeter case on my 7¼ inch wrist wears just about perfectly. And although it does have a slightly longer 48 millimeter lug to lug, because of the curvature on these lugs, they never really seem long. The nice thing is though, that it does fill out the top of your wrist when it comes to that visual weight and visual presence. It looks really, really nice. And definitely feels like a purpose-built sports watch. And look at that blue. Look how bright it just lights up right there, and then can shift into something so much darker. This has got to be just such. I'm loving this. I mean, and I love blue dial divers. this thing it's putting up a real case, guys. Especially at under $500, and then not to mention obviously the scratch resistance. I mean, it's just the excellent. I mean, there's not too much craziness going on here, right? It's simple 3-link style. You got your milled clasp, you have some micro adjustment holes, but everything that it just does so well that it's really hard to argue with it. You know, it's not always about, you know, how many features you have. It's about, you know, which ones you have, right? And I think this has all the right features, obviously, and then they're all executed absolutely just, you know, stellar. I mean, not to the level I'd say where this is some type of luxury timepiece killer. But for a sports watch, there is no functional reason why you should have anything that is finished nicer than this watch right here. So really, really impressive from that standpoint. Let's go ahead and get some low light and Lume shots. All right, so I brought the Gen 1 back into frame here so you can just get a little quick comparison with the Lume. So as you can see, the BGW9 looks great on both models, but it's definitely a much lighter finish there, I should say, application on the first gen Freediver. Now, one thing you'll also notice, of course, is that you have the lumed ceramic insert. Here on this particular model, though, it is the steel, so it's not going to have the fully lumed indexes on that bezel insert, but it does have that nice pip, and obviously I think the steel on blue looks absolutely fantastic when fully lit, so there's that. So one thing I do like to do is get some low light transition in cases like this, because you're not always going to be wearing your watch in optimal lighting conditions. Sometimes they are going to be coming, you know, you'll be coming in and out of an office space, in and out of a building, in and out of a vehicle, whatnot, and you're not always going to be in direct sunlight. But the nice thing here with the Lume transition, the low light transition, you're going to be able to see, one, the way that Lume is going to contrast and read, and you're also going to get a look at the finishing there and see how some of that brushing can be washed out when you are actually looking at it with the full-on studio lights, or if you were to look at it, you know, out in an outdoor shot. So a lot of those fine details do end up getting washed out. But as you can see now, look at the way that blue transitions. So it's really nice also to see the way the color renders in lower light. Obviously the light play on any of the reflective surfaces can tell you so much. Look at that, those bevels there. If I can angle the light the right way, should be able to get a nice look at that. Nice uniform brushing there. Obviously with that coating, it does, I'd say, add a slight opaque tint to it, so it's not super 100% clear. There is a touch, I'd say, which same thing for any other coating that I've ever seen. You know, you're going to notice that it's there. It's not something that is ever going to look just like raw steel. But I'm loving the way the color transitions on these guys. So with that said, let's go ahead and just talk about some quick closing thoughts. Again, just a quick preview of this excellent release, upcoming release from Traska. Now on the wrist, super nice proportions, very comfortable, balanced wear. You know, that hard coating does add that darker tint, similar to Seiko's hard coat, but that's not a bad thing at all. As far as model variants, as far as I know, they're still going to be offering the previous dial options, but they're just adding this new one. I think maybe even an orange dial. Not 100% sure on that one. Definitely stay tuned. Keep an eye on Instagram, of course. Check out Traska's website for updates, and then also keep in tune with the channel, as once they start having some more production information, I'll definitely be happy to share that with you guys. Now, comparable models go, you know what, there's a lot that are out there in kind of this under 500 price range. You know, even with similar movements as far as, you know, Seiko NH movements go. But you know what, the standout qualities for this are going to be that hard coating, and then just, I'd say, just the overall super solid build, right? They didn't try to do anything crazy, and that's one of the things that it's tough. I guess from a watchmaker's perspective, sometimes you can just do something simple and do it excellent, or you can do something and just really, really cool and complex and interesting, but then totally mess it up, right? So I think in this case, they went for that cool, clean, classic design, for the form and the function, and it worked out really, really well. So really happy about that. You know what the bottom line is here, you have really great kind of vintage inspired looks that are definitely far from homage. These are not paying homage to any particular reference, which is great. And in that price range, that's something you do kind of have to be wary of as far as originality goes. Under $500 for a sports watch. And you know what, the features that are on here, I wouldn't even say you could expect those at other price ranges, because proprietary hard coatings are not something that are very common in the watch industry. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.